everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And Black Alicia's. I said that to my friend. I hope I can call her a friend before I start. She goes, wow, I can't do all that. I said, just work a little bit at a time, just a little bit at a time. So if you're watching this live, excellent. If you're not, watch it anyways. But we are very blessed. And this is the third time I've had this wonderful lady, wonderful love. I'm sure she's a wonderful lover to her husband, Dr. Boyce. A wonderful Black woman. These days I'm thinking so many things musical. I think maybe underneath we should just put "I'm Every Woman" underneath her title. She's shaking her head. So let me just talk and introduce her properly. So let me get something up here. And you know what? The thing I'm looking for isn't available. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. I'm going to get to it. Well, you know what? I'm just going to introduce Dr. Alicia because there's so many things that she does, but I think the most important thing, she's a friend. She's a friend. And tonight we're going to have a conversation about a message of hope for Black fathers. If you're watching this before Father's Day, that's why we're doing it, because we want to celebrate Black fathers. And this is one of the wonderful individuals in the world who I know champions Black fatherhood, champions Black love, champions Black families. So people are saying, why are you bringing a Black woman to talk about Black fathers? Well, sit and listen. All right? Sit and listen and you'll find out why. So let's welcome back Dr. Alicia Watkins. What's going on?
Hi there, Dr. Vibe. How you doing? This is my third time back on. You know what I feel like? I feel like this is like the third date. We've now had our third date.
No. I hope, Dr. Boyce, I'm gonna need to edit that out.
No, don't edit it. It is a friendship. It's a friendship. But once you invite me on for the third time, we family. It's a level of intimacy there that is not there anywhere else. So I really appreciate you having me on, Dr. Vibe.
Well, you know what? And before we went on live, there was some of my story that I shared with Dr. Alicia that a lot of people don't know. But I can say in her presence, I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Feel very comfortable. And the stuff I shared, you goes, what? We got to talk sometime. We will.
Yes, we do.
We will. Before we go any further, I want to say hello to Dr. Tachi, who is a lady based, actually a wonderful lady who on the 19th of this month, her and her, along with a gentleman named Curtis Brooks, are launching a 24/7 online network.
Whoa, that is amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And so I've been blessed to know Dr. Tachi for at least 6-7 years digitally. And this will be one of the conversations that's going to be on this network. And Dr. Alicia, you may want to chat with her because I know you do a lot of conversations.
I love it.
And there's definitely room for the conversations that you have on different platforms.
Connect us together. I'd like to get her information and have a conversation with her about things we could do together. That's awesome.
Absolutely, yes. And she every most Wednesday evening she hosts something called Media Scope, which is all about media, tech, and pop culture.
Oh.
and she does that on Instagram Live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then at 6 p.m. she does it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, and a whole other things. She's a prolific. She actually has her PhD in communications from Howard University.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a wonderful HBCU. Love that.
Yes.
Yes,
and you see this, Dr. Tachi says that would be fantastic. So now it's my responsibility now to bring you two together. And also, is there family coming on? Evening all. Hi, Dr. Watkins. I always learn so much from you when you are on. Oh boy.
Oh.
the expectations are high tonight.
That's fine. So, well, I'm gonna, we're gonna have our conversation.
You better believe it. Since we last chatted, I think did you finished off another school term and successfully done all your
Oh my goodness. Spring semester is always tough, but I'm off for the summer, so I'm happy to say that.
And are you gonna get a chance to go away anywhere during the summer?
I'm always traveling with Dr. Boyce, and he has stuff that he does. So we kind of build in vacation around his speech engagements and stuff, and things that he's doing or things that I'm doing. We usually let's take a few days and have a vacation. So we usually build it around all of his travel, because he travels quite a bit.
Yes, and he's traveling this weekend coming up.
Yeah, we'll be traveling this week. I got some stuff with my daughter's doing a medical program in Atlanta, and so we'll be there. And he's doing some pretty cool things. He's doing promotion for his film Black B1, B1 film. So he's doing that this weekend, and I'll be there. So I try to go to as much as I can, but I can't go to everything with him. I can't stop my life to follow him around, but as much as I can stop my life, I do. Well, he's so interesting.
Yeah, he is. And we still have to have a conversation about potentially getting you up here in Toronto.
Oh, for sure. Oh, Toronto. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think maybe Dr. Boyce has been here, but it's been a long time since he's been here.
Okay. Okay.
And you've been to Toronto, have you, at least once?
I've never been to Toronto.
No.
I've been to Montreal, but I've never been to Toronto. I'd like to come. So
we would like to have you. So we have to have that conversation, see what we can do to make that happen. So yes, we're catching up, family.
We're
okay. I know
up. We're catching up. This is the third date. We got to catch up.
You're going to make a black man blush. Why are you doing that to me? All right. So let's get down to some interesting things. So tonight, our conversation is going to be a message of hope for Black fathers, and Father's Day is just around the corner. And I thought that'd be really good to get from your lens.
Yeah.
Black fatherhood. And Dr. Aisha has some things she wants to share. And then there's other things if we may get to them, but we're just going to have a conversation. If you're watching this live, please feel free. You're already giving comments. Give your comments. She'll answer and respond to the best of her ability. So where do you want to start on our journey? Because last time you were on, you talked about the journey of the Black woman.
Yes. It's so fascinating because I talked about the stereotypes of Black women and how it's promoted in the media. And media has really done a number on Black men. I almost think that maybe the next time we talk, we should have a discussion about the Black family, because media has done a number on Black families and Black couples.
Yes.
But what I think media, and I just use all media, like every time you open up your phone and look at something, every time you turn the TV on, all of that is media. It's all Hollywood, all of that stuff. And, there's a war on the Black family. And in order to execute that war on the Black family, the biggest person that you need to diminish is the Black father in the family, because the Black father, those are the people who protect, provide, they love, they do all of these things. They are such an important piece, essential piece in the Black family. Hence, the Black family is where children are cultivated and they learn all of their values. There's so much wonderful things that can be learned from not only the Black mother, but the Black father, right? And so any strategic way to remove the Black father or the importance of the Black father from the household further pushes this agenda, this war on Black people in general. Yeah.
If I'm allowed to ask you, what about your dad?
Okay.
How, when you look at your father, can you share with us his Black fatherhood?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is my dad grew up with a mom, his mom and dad in the home, right? He grew up that way, but he grew up, of course, in the 60s and 70s, where he was a civil rights activist. He did a lot of he did a lot of work in Chicago, south side of Chicago, with the Nation of Islam, with the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement. He was heavily entrenched in that era, and that was the reason why he decided to become a social worker, was to do this community level work and policy and change policy. And, you know, so those were the things that he was tackling back when I was growing up. And he and my mom eloped. They eloped, fell in love, met in college, and just eloped. And they were married for almost 20 years and had me and my brother. And, you know, I always had like a really close relationship with him, but he himself wasn't probably the best spouse, because it didn't work with my mom. He and my mom got divorced. And although he was a good father and he was really good in his career, because he was a college professor, got a PhD, he was a social worker therapist like myself, but he had some shortcomings. And it's interesting because my mom, I said, "Dad, Mom, why did you marry my dad? Like, what was it about him?" And she said, "Well, first of all, I absolutely loved him. And second of all, he came from a really good family. He had a mom and a dad. And actually, my mom grew up with a mother and a father in the home, you know, and then her father died. So when she was in high school, but they both had that sort of understanding and value of the Black family and marriage and all of that. So that's why she picked him, because she said, yeah, this is a man who has come from a really strong family, middle-class family. They were considered middle class. But in terms of his ability to relate to my mom in the way where it was healthy, wasn't necessarily there. And I don't remember seeing anything like violent between the two of them. I grew up with a pretty loving environment, I would say, but the two of them didn't get along very well. So in terms of my dad, my relationship with my dad, I spent a lot of time with him. You know, I spent a lot of time with him. I grew up on a college campus because he taught at Tuskegee University.
Okay, all right.
So, and I was born at Tuskegee University. I was born in John Andrews Hospital.
Come on.
Yeah, I was born there. Yeah, wow. Yeah. So anyway, so I have a very special relationship with my dad, and he's not here. He's passed on, but I had a very special relationship with him. Yeah.
My condolences on that. Then compare your environment growing up with your father to what you see through your lens now with Black fathers.
Yeah, that is an interesting. Gosh, Dr. Vibe, I didn't think you'd be asking me all these questions. Yeah, I mean, I have, you know what, I understand that there are what's quote unquote a shortage of Black men, you know, and viable Black men. I have not had that in my life. You know, I've always had an abundance. And for a long time, I never really bought into the idea that there's a lack, you know, that there's a lack of good Black men, that there's a lack of available. Now, statistically, that's probably true. Okay, because I hear a lot of people saying that Black men and media play this role on, you know, controlling the minds of a lot of Black men, who led them down to crime and in jail and prisons. I do understand that. However, I personally have never experienced a lack thereof of available men in my life. You know, I've had what I would consider, you know, a pick of men that I feel like are valuable. So I don't know if that's just unique to me, but I know other women who feel like that too. And so I don't want to get into this sort of attitude that there's a lack thereof. So anyway, in terms of my relationship with men, I think it's just, that is so interesting. I think it's just interesting that I would marry someone like Boyce, who's a professor, a college professor, and we met on college campus. So there's got to be some sort of unconscious thing that I'm going after. But Boyce has always been like a really favorite friend of mine, and I never thought he would ever be interested in me. That's what was so really fascinating. And it's funny because my dad And Boyce and I, although Boyce and my dad never met, but
Oh,
my dad would send me messages to give to Boyce. Yeah, he would send me messages. We followed Boyce's career when he was on CNN. We would call each other up and I'd be like, turn to CNN. We got to watch what's going on with Boyce. So he knew all about Boyce.
okay.
All about Boyce. So we spent a lot of time talking about, and he helped navigate my career as a college professor because it's tough. It's tough being a Black woman it's even worse for Black men on college campuses, but it was really tough for Black women on college campuses. That was a whole nother cup of tea. I don't even want to get into all of that.
Conversation.
It is really, really tough. But I was fortunate enough to have my dad to help navigate the process. And so my dad would help through me would navigate Boyce and some of his struggles that he had at Syracuse. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You do a lot of couples counseling.
I do.
You know, you're a licensed therapist. What are you seeing in the world of Black fathers these days?
You know what? Honestly, I think we need to get away from Black fathers because they did not have a father in their life growing up. I think we need to get away from the idea that because they didn't have a Black father growing up, that they can't be a good father themselves. Because what I'm seeing in my office, the major theme in my office is a lot of Black men saying, you know what, my father fell short, but I'm not going to do that for my family. I'm going to be there for my family. And believe it or not, Black fathers are showing up for their families above and beyond what any other race. If you compare the involvement of Black fathers in the lives of their children, it supersedes any other racial group, by the way. So what I'm finding is that no matter what is your past, you are not damaged because you've had a less than ideal past. Maybe you grew up with a single mom household. That does not mean that you can't be a good mother. That does not mean that you can't be a good wife or a good husband or a good father. That means that you have challenges like everybody else does. There's not one person in this world that did not have challenges. We all have childhoods that was flawed in some way. There's no such thing as a perfect childhood. But I think that what I'm finding with a lot of Black fathers, because of these negative stereotypes, that they are making a conscious effort to do better, and they are doing better. I'm very hopeful based on what I'm seeing in my office, which is what I talked to you about before I came on here. I'm like, I got hope. I don't have this doom and gloom perspective when it comes to the Black family and particularly the role of Black fathers.
Wonderful. We're doing a little bit of broadcasting here on Instagram. So greetings, Emmy, Carlos, Ray. Greetings, you, Guerriere. We are watching a bit of this conversation with Dr. Alicia Watkins. We're having a conversation titled A Message of Hope for Black Fathers as Black fathers, and Father's Day is coming around the corner. If you want to catch the full conversation, because we're not going to do everything here, go to the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube, but you're getting an appetizer. So if you want the full thing, go over to YouTube. So Dr. Alicia, there were some things I know you wanted to share with us tonight, and I'm sort of not allowed you to do that. So I want to open the gates to you on anything you want to share about when it comes to Black fatherhood this evening.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. So I think what's interesting, I don't know if anyone has ever read the Willie Lynch letter. Has anyone read that? The Willie Lynch letter? You've read it? Yeah. So the Willie Lynch is a Black slave owner named Willie Lynch who spent time going around and teaching slave owners how to break the slave. And what was beautiful about it is that beautiful in the sense that it was effective, right? He understood the value of controlling the mind of the slave. And he said, if you control the mind, I don't care what the body does. We're controlling the mind. And I think that even though that was back in slavery times, we're seeing that a lot today. And one thing that's unique about the Black family is that all of the stereotypes that I talked about with Black women and the stereotypes of Black men, right? That they're not good fathers, that they abandon their children, that you can't trust them, that they're promiscuous and they're dependent, that they won't come through for you. It's this stereotype that Black men are weak, somehow weakened. And when you look at images of Black men in media, you see them in kind of a weakened state, a feminized sort of state, right? You see them in a way where they're not seen as the alpha male. They're very feminized. And some of this is psychologically orchestrated by the Willie Lynch that I see played out in media. And so one thing that I didn't talk about before that I'd like to talk about today is that we internalize those messages. So when you have a Black man and a Black woman in a relationship with each other, and how can you not be subjected to media and the stereotypes? I'm internalizing the stereotypes of Black women, but I'm also internalizing the stereotypes of Black men. And so it always, this is what makes Black families so unique, is that the couples, the husband and the wife, are playing out these stereotypes against each other. They're attacking each other in these stereotypes because they're digesting all of them. And so that's why you get a lot of people in my office who's just like, oh, she thinks she's the boss of me, and she's masculine, and she's all the things that they say about Black women, that they are, you can't trust her, angry, right? Yeah. All those things and all of those stereotypes you see played out. And I think that's one of the aspects of which is psychologically damaging. So that's another thing that I see in my office, is that they're pointing the finger. See, I told you I couldn't trust you. I told you you wouldn't show up. I told you you were promiscuous. And that's not the case. There's no evidence for that because it's a stereotype. That angry, bitter, loud, aggressive, untrustworthy, all of those things that they say about Black women that are internalized by some Black men that I see in my office. And I have to spend quite some time deconstructing those things because the internalized stereotypes is damaging to the relationship between these two people when they're together trying to be intimate with each other, and it gets in the way. So that's one thing that I'm seeing.
Okay. We'll give you a little bit of a break because there are people jumping in all over the place on Instagram Live. Emmy Carlos Ray says, hi, Dr. Watkins. Informative as always. The Macmillan Group since 1999 has joined in. And the Macmillan Group is actually the sponsor of our Monday show, The Morning Vibe. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Gospel Cafe has joined in. Saraka Bibi, who I used to mentor many, many years ago, is in here also. And we're chatting with Dr. Alicia Watkins. And we're talking about a message of hope for Black fathers. So you're watching a bit on Instagram. You won't be able to watch all of it on Instagram, only a piece, but be like Ulysses Guerriere, who jumped off of Instagram and now is in the YouTube channel watching. And also, he also says it is by design. They want to keep the alpha male down.
Yes, it is by design. It is by design. And you can find it in all of media, every single movie, every commercial, every television show. It's going to be bombarded with those images. And the thing is that part of the misconception that's plaguing, I think, Black fathers is the belief that they are absent figures in their children's lives. And that's such a misconception because nothing could be further from the truth. Black fathers are some of the most involved individuals. They are balancing work, they're balancing their families and other responsibilities. And they've always been that way. So they're way more involved in their children's daily lives than fathers of any other race. And I think that shows the level of dedication that Black fathers have for their families and fighting the stereotype, the ones who are conscious of it, right?
Yes.
And there are many of them that are woke. They're woke.
Absolutely. Some other people that are here, Ryan O'Neill Knight, who I co-host The Morning Vibe with on Monday and Friday mornings at 9 a.m., who's actually the husband of Cher Knight, who came in earlier. Going back a little bit, you talked about being Dr. Tachi can relate because she's still an educator. She goes, being melanated on college campuses comes with so much. That's another conversation.
You know what? There's so much in that sentence. I know. Say no more, Dr. Tachi. I know exactly what you're going.
You know what? You know what we should do? We should have a conversation. Have you and Dr. Tachi come on and talk about your experiences as Black women in education.
And I'm a full professor of social work. So you know I got scars. They don't give those things to you. I had to overwhelmingly earn them, and I had to do twice as much as everybody else to get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else you want? Frequency of event promotions. Thanks for stopping by on IG. As and Dr. Tachi, she goes, I'm in. She's up for that conversation. So you see, we're 3 times. You're setting yourself for more appearances this year. You know that.
Okay. All right. So
All right. All
yeah.
right. So we got to do one. The next one will be on the Black family, and then we can talk maybe about Black women's experiences in education. Okay.
Okay.
All
There
right.
we go.
Okay. What are the things you want to share? Because I have some things I can bring to the table and have you comment. But I'm just steering the ship. You're driving the ship this evening.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think that this is a message of hope. So I think another message of hope I think would be very helpful is, okay, let's just face it. I think there are some Black fathers who haven't been as involved as they would like to be. And so I think, and I have spoken to a lot of them, and what they tell me, which is very fascinating, is that my money wasn't right. I didn't have my money right. So I didn't feel like I was worthy enough to be involved in my children's lives because I was ashamed, because I did not have these shiny material things or money, or they didn't feel like they were worthy enough to be involved in their children's life. So I do talk to a lot of men who are parents, and I'm saying, look, your child does not want that from you. You know, they want your time and love and attention as well. That's just as important. So, I mean, I really would say, any of the fathers who have some severed relationships, and I know how difficult it can be in dealing with blended families and baby mamas and all of these things. But I really do think that you should never give up on building a healthy relationship with those individuals that are important to you. And, yes, sometimes you need to create healthy boundaries around what you can accept and what you can't accept. But I think that as a parent and as a man, it's your right to try to do whatever you can to continue to build those strong relationships with your children and all the people who are important to you, and learn how to be diplomatic and learn how to not get your ego involved. You know what I mean? You are a man and you are strong, and you can set the tone for sound relationships in your life. So that is something that I would say that is never too late, and is never too late to start right now. Start today.
So another thing you don't know about me that I'll share publicly is
Oh,
just before the pandemic, I had spent 3 years working as a program coordinator at Canada's only father-focused family center.
oh, whoa. Tell me about this. Tell me more. I want to
So
hear. You're the one.
so it was very interesting because dealing with fathers who had restricted custody,
Yes.
dealing with fathers and the family court system, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other conversation. And I think that it was a very interesting time to just see the stresses that a lot of the fathers are going through, because again, as you mentioned, economics is a big part of it, because sometimes you'll have a Black father who has to go to family court, has to do child support, and a lot of these fathers had blue collar jobs, like, I mean, low end blue collar jobs,
Yeah.
not like working on a construction site, but I mean, and only having limited time to see their kids.
Oh, it's awful. And even the time that they do have to see their children, they get so much blockage. I used to work from the mom, believe
Well,
it or
not
not, and
that's
from
something I saw. Sorry to interrupt, but there was a situation I saw like that. I just went, wow, wow, wow. Like, I meant the dad was not the bad person from my lens.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've
And
seen that.
the mother or the partner in the situation was using the child as leverage against the dad and saying, no, you can't come see him, this, that, and
Yep.
all this stuff. So I hear you and I support you saying there is a lot of Black fathers that they're fighting the fight.
And they are in so much pain, and they are
Yes.
missing out on so much. And guess what? The children are hurting too. The children are hurting, and I have to spend so much time talking to both parents now, because sometimes the dad can get very petty as well. And I'm like, you have to put the child first. You have to put the needs of the child first. And it was one thing that I've been talking about very often, very recently, is that, listen, you cannot badmouth the biological parent of your child in front of your child. You just cannot do that. And it's going to take a level of maturity that you have to have, and a level of restraint. You cannot be impulsive. You have to be mature. You have to have sound mind. You have to have restraint, that you do not react. You have to be a grown-up, basically. And no matter what happens, never, ever say anything negative about the other parent in earshot of the child, because they digest that. Just think about it. They identify with their parents. How could you not identify with your parents? So if there's something wrong with my mother, my dad thinks there's something wrong with my mother, and I am half of my mother, then he's saying there's something wrong with me. It's an unconscious thing. And think about it. If my mom is negatively talking about my biological father, who I have a good relationship with, or even maybe not a good relationship with, I'm going to internalize that there's something wrong with me, because I am half of my dad. So, I mean, it's an unconscious thing, but you never want to put children in the middle of that. You have some very, very angry children I've worked with in family courts. I have worked with a lot of GALs that had to get involved because the parental alienation happens a lot. And unfortunately, fathers are on the receiving end of parental alienation. I think it's really, really terrible.
Okay. Yeah. So a few things. So yes. I see Saraka BB on Instagram. I see every once in a while you're wanting to be in the video. Now, do you want to ask a question? You won't be able to see Dr. Alicia, but if you have a question, I can bring you in. You can say the question and she'll be able to respond to it. Or if you have a comment, so message me on this, because I just sent, do you have a question? What's the main topic of the conversation? We're having a message of hope for Black fathers. So that's the main topic of the conversation. Also, I'm multi-purposing here. The Macmillan Group says, good evening, great conversation. The family court has played a major role in the destruction of the Black father-child dynamic. Tragic.
Yeah, it is very true. But I will say my message of hope is that it is getting better. There are advocacy groups. Like, I got so excited when you talked about, your involvement in that group, because there have been some advocacy groups that have made a lot of headway. And what's happening is that there are a lot of social workers like myself on the research end that are doing research and pulling data and showing courts and disseminating information to the public to say, listen, this is very damaging to the child. This is very damaging to the father. This is damaging them and their ability to grow up as a whole person. So there's a lot of research now coming out in favor of fathers and in saying that they need to have better involvement. Now, I will say in Illinois, because I live in Illinois, that if you're married and you want to get divorced in Illinois, so this is not just like having children outside of marriage, there's no child support. That's the default. The default is there's no child support and you share equal custody. So that child spends 7 days out of the week. That child is going to spend, the default is the child spends 4 days a week with the mom, and then the next week it'll be 3 days with the father. So they even it out so that there's no child support, and they alternate the Wednesday or whatever. So I'm starting to see those models now show up in court, when previously it was just the default that the mom would be custody. So now they're having shared custody. So there are changes in the right direction to give fathers their equal standing in their child's life, even though the relationship has dissolved.
Okay, so this is the first time we've had this happen, because I've been periodically doing, like, showing, letting people listen on Instagram, and a gentleman, Saraka Bibi, who I knew many years ago, who I mentored, he's joined in. Do you have a question for Dr. Alicia or a comment?
Well, I was listening to the conversation and wanted to chime in, but it seems like a very broad question. So I wanted to get to the specifics of what came out here. So are you talking about fatherhood specifically, or the entire family as a whole?
Fatherhood. We're talking about fatherhoods more specifically, but fatherhood relates to the Black family. Black fatherhood relates to the Black family. So Do you have a question or comment?
I can say that having known you from the past, from brother to brother and sister to sister at Tropicana, it was an invaluable experience connecting with you guys at a young age. You know, we were all, I think we were teenagers, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old at the time when we connected, and we all sort of connected to this brotherhood, mentorship, and fatherhood experience that was invaluable to our very impressionable years. So first of all, I want to thank you for that, Ed Gow. I remember you from, you know, back in the days with Wayne Harris,
Richard Eiten,
Dr. Richard Eiten, our late great friend Richard Eiten, that made a profound difference in our lives as far as growing into being men. So that was an amazing. It shaped my life for sure. An established person as a registered nurse. I'm actually currently now doing a second career in film and television as a film producer and director. So, man, I don't know what to say, man. If you guys haven't been in my life at that point in my growing and maturing, it changed the course of my life. And all the brothers, I'm still connected with most of the guys that were mentees like myself, with you and the group at the time. So that was an invaluable experience, you know? So I guess I would address that question to say that we definitely need to pay it forward and let, other youth who are coming up get that mentorship and get that guidance, get that, that love, that spirit, that unconditional kind of love that you guys showed us when we were younger. And it made a profound difference in our lives. So
thank you.
That's how I would address that question, Ed.
Thank you.
Good to see you, man. You look the same as you did like 20 years ago, man. 25 years ago. It's amazing,
I guess, am I testimonial that black don't crack or what?
Absolutely, man. You look amazing. That's amazing, man. Like, it's really, really good to see you on here, man.
Well, look,
I'm so happy to see you. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go, but thanks for chiming in. And if you have any more questions or comments, I'm multi-purposing here in regards to make this conversation. So, and reach out to me offline, please.
Okay, I will.
All right.
Definitely. Good to see you, Ed.
Keep the faith.
All right. God bless.
Bye-bye.
What a heartfelt story. I mean, you mentored him and he's like giving a big testimony about the importance of you in his life.
Well, and I think this leads to another part of the story here, that the group that Sirac is mentioning about many years ago, there were a group of us at that time. I think we were in our mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, and we mentored a group of young melanated boys.
Yeah.
And it brings out the point that all our young boys, whether you're biologically related to them or not, need that man presence, black man presence in their lives.
Yeah, it works. It's just having somebody to take an interest in you and having someone to validate you and everything that you're experiencing and having that safe place for you to open up. That means the world to people. He carried that along with him throughout the rest of his life, that experience that you gave him. It's just beautiful.
So, Sirac, do you want to add anything onto that? Because you're still here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was an incredible experience to connect with these guys at a very young age. It impacted our lives. Incredibly, we stayed focused on our goals, whether it's school, business ventures, or whatever we wanted to do in life. Like, it was just a powerful experience to be able to come. We would connect once a month and be at one of the houses of our mentors, and they would openly discuss all the issues that would relate to young black men in this country. We're all from various backgrounds. I'm Ethiopian. My friends were all like from Jamaica, all the island countries. And we would just, congregate together and like fellowship. It was just it's like a fun experience to be able to connect with these guys. So it made a difference. It made a huge difference in our lives and shaping the way that we were going to move forward in our lives. So it was invaluable. I don't know how to express it, you know. It's incredible. Like the other day, we remembered Richard Iden, who passed away 10 years ago from a very serious illness. And it was just, you know, it brought me to tears thinking about Richard and how he would come and open his house to us to have a beautiful conversation about various topics we were dealing with, business, family, school, whatever was on our mind, we were able to share with Ed and the company at Brother to Brother. So they were just incredible guys. I don't have to describe these guys. They're like, you know, just incredible Black men that wanted to make a difference in the lives of youth. So
we haven't, we haven't let you guys go. You know where to find us.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Because
I'm still in touch with all my brothers from there, man.
Okay.
In Everton, we still connect, and Marwan and all the younger guys, you know, that were at the brothers. So we still talk and connect with each other. So it was a lifelong partnership that we formed.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let you go, and thank you so much for being there, and this all is incorporated in the conversation because this provides hope, and the hope has been there for a long time. So my challenge to you is now pay it forward.
Absolutely, yes.
And we're still around. We're still around, but but paying it forward. So
actually, yeah, we're overdue for a reunion from all the guys.
Well, you know? Wayne Harris is on this platform once a month, the first Friday of each month at 9 a.m.
He is? Okay.
So we'll be in touch. Right. I'm going to ask you to sign off, and we're going to get back to Dr. Alicia.
That is.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
Thank you,
blessing. God bless.
That is so beautiful because men, we get these messages of manhood that in order to be a man, you have to hold all your feelings in. You can't have feelings or show emotions and all of that. And how beautiful it is to have an avenue and a place where you can kind of let all that out. All the things that Black men go through, they never have a place where they feel comfortable enough without feeling ashamed of what's going on, where they can just kind of get everything off their chest. It's so important for especially young boys, young men, to have a place to do that. And what that does to them, I think is so beautiful. I love that.
Okay.
That was great.
I'm going to shut it down on IG, but if you want to catch the rest of the conversation, come over to the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube page. Sarak, thank you for making this conversation better. And thanks.
Yes.
And please be in touch. Message me right after this, and let's see how we can continue the journey. All right? All right, everyone on Instagram, thank you. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. All right. Well, that was
beautiful, Dr. Vibe. Look at you.
What? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. It's just like no, but that was a very special group of young men and all of us, and we were all just doing the journey. Dr. Tachi is saying, this is just wonderful. Now, Ray says, wouldn't that shared custody model be disruptive to the children, specifically younger kids? Elaborate, please.
Well, the thinking is that, it all depends on the parents have to get together and decide what's the best, what's the easiest and the best. I've seen different models where the children will spend 1 week with one parent, the other week with the other parent. They try to, the idea is that, and of course the transition from one household to another is, I've worked with a lot of families where we try to like sort through, okay, how are we going to make this transition process easier for the child? But it is a challenge. It is something that you have to overcome. But on the end of it all, you have two parents that are working together. The child can see that the parents are working together and they're spending equal time with both parents. And I have talked to parents where the household has dissolved for whatever reason. And we work together to make sure, okay, whatever the rules are in this one house, you can't dictate what happens in the other household, right? But what are the rules in this house? What are the rules in this other house? And you try to get them to sync up as much as possible. But if we haven't, you talk to the child about, okay, when you're with your dad, you got to follow the rules at your dad's house. When you're with your mom, you got to follow the rules at your mom's house. And I do a lot of work with children in processing their experiences. But at the end of it all, they still have a connection with their father and they still have a connection with their mother, and the alienation piece is not there. So it does make it very complicated. I ain't gonna lie, it's challenging sometimes, but I've seen it work where it's been very, very beautiful situation and setup. And it's fair. It seems like that's the best case scenario of a situation that's unfortunate, where the relationship between a mom and a dad gets dissolved.
Yeah, this is wonderful. And family, keep the comments coming. This is an amazing comment. I didn't know that Sirach would jump in
beautiful.
Here, and I'm very touched. My heart is full, but for his kind words that he had for myself and the other men, young men who are now men themselves, coming in. Dr. Alicia, in regards to messages of hope for the fathers that didn't have a father or don't know their father, what words would you like to share from your heart? Because you're just so wonderful, because you combine your wonderful intellect with your wonderful passion.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's a loss there. Anytime you lose a parent, for whatever reason, either they transition to the other side, or even worse is that they're not involved in your life, but they're around. It's like, it's difficult not to internalize that, to say, what was wrong with me that my dad did not follow up with me, that my dad did not reach out to me, that did not have this relationship with me, that all of us as children, we just desire this. We want our parents to see us, to accept us, and to validate us. We want these with our parent, and it really is a question in our head, like, what was it? Why weren't they there for me the way they needed to be? And we understand that some Black men did have some challenges that kept them away from the home. And so it is something that I get a lot of men who talk about those things, talk about the pain. You really need to connect with the pain of that experience. And, pain is not necessarily a bad thing. Pain is a teaching tool. Pain is a way for you to digest some of that loss that you've experienced, and you turn it into growth. You turn it into growth. What are you going to do going forward as a Black man, knowing that you did not have your father there with you for whatever reason that was there? How do you turn that into growth for you, so that you make sure you don't do that for your children and the people who are important to you? And so I think that that's something that is just a growth opportunity. It's something that you got to dig down in and take a look at, for sure. Yeah.
It's there are so many, and it's interesting. It was interesting. I was watching a virtual conference the other day for Black fathers, and they were talking about mental health, and the facilitator said a number of wonderful things, but two that stuck out in my head was, in the word mental, the first three letters spell men.
Men, yeah.
And then health, the first four letters spell heal.
Heal, yes.
Heal.
Yes.
And she also said that just because we're raising up Black fathers doesn't mean we're putting down Black mothers.
No, not at all. There's room for everybody. It's not an attack. They're not opposing forces. Both of the roles of the mother and the father are equally important. You can't do it by yourself. I was just talking to boys today. We're managing kids in the house. I'm talking to them today, and I'm like, I need your help. Please help. I'm coming to him all the time. Please help me. And he's always like, okay, I'll help you. He never says no, but we got to manage this. I can't do it on my own. I call my brother. I call my mom. I call whoever I can, to know that I don't feel like a lesser than mom because I'm admitting that I can't carry the whole load on my shoulders. You can't do it. You just can't, and it's okay. It takes a village. Look at the story that we just heard from Sirach. It takes a village. And historically, that's who we were anyway. That's who we are as Black people anyway, historically.
So what do you feel is maybe some of the reasons for challenges that Black fathers don't want to open up? And one of my mentors said to me the other day, a really good term, a Black father should have someone where you can have vault conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they do want to open up, but I think they're afraid. They're scared of opening up.
Of what?
They're scared of being ashamed. You know, they're afraid of not being heard and not being understood, because living in this life, nobody's more misunderstood and labeled and put into a box more than Black men have been. And so when you come home, you got to have a place where you can come home where you can just kind of, you know, where you can air all of the stresses that you go through, you know, in your daily life. You want to be able to step into a home or some space where you can get that off your chest. Now, it's not appropriate to be crying out in public all the time. You know, you don't need to do that, but you do need to have a place that's safe for you to be able to open up. And Black men want to open up. Believe it or not, another trend I'm finding in my office is that, you know, people think that women want intimacy, but I'm having a lot of men who are like, I want to be held. You know, I want intimacy. You know, they're opening up, saying, you know, I really need this. This makes me feel good, because it makes them feel good when they go outside of the home and tackle this world and battle this world. They feel
it's a battle
charged.
For both. It's a battle for both.
Yes.
But it's also a battle for us. Like it's interesting. I do a lot of helping of men, and I know, so a few years ago I was helping out a Black father in San Francisco. And one of the challenges he had was he'd finish work, and I'll get to your question in a moment, Ulysses. And he would come home and he would just be thrown into it. Like the house would be chaos.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't you, when you leave work, you get home in the driveway and just turn everything off for 15 minutes and just have quiet.
Yeah.
Just breathe, just whatever you want to do, no noise, whatever. So you're better emotionally prepared for what you're going to be going into in the house. And he said it was a brilliant idea.
That is beautiful. I'm telling you, and women need to do it too.
True.
It is tough. And I think that if he was going to a home where there was chaos and he has his wife there in the midst of that chaos, the two of them need to manage that chaos together.
There you
go. They're supportive to each other, and they'd be like, all right, let's pull up our sleeves. We got to put Johnny to bed early so that we can have our time together, or whatever it is. Like it's beautiful to see two people working together and not pointing the finger, because you don't want to have a man to come into the household and say, why is this out of line? Where's my dinner? What's going on? Or totally tune out, because sometimes a lot of men do tune out. They come home, they're like, you know what? The bills are paid. You got clothes on your back. Leave me alone while I watch the game. And they tune everything out. You know, but they have to, it's interesting. You have to slowly pull them out of that and say, hey, your children need to connect with you too. Your wife needs to have that support from you, because we can't put it on. Now, these 2-parent households, everybody's working. You know, everybody has, so we have to share the responsibilities. But the good thing is that Black men are more apt to do it more than any other races, by the way. So, you know, Black men have been noticing, okay, something's not right, because, you know, in a lot of ways, a lot of Black men have seen their mother carry the load of the family when they were growing up. So right now, what I'm starting to find is that a lot of Black men, Black fathers are getting it. They get it. They're like, no, she needs help. I'm going to do whatever I can to help her, because I saw my mom go to just tire herself out doing everything on her own. And we need you to help. We need you to pitch in. And so that's the beauty of it all. Yeah.
Okay. Some more comments here. Ulysses said about that a number of Black men and fathers are afraid to be judged by their past choices.
Listen, just because you make a mistake does not mean you are a mistake.
Yep. Right.
Sometimes I think sometimes Black men get a bad rap. And I think, there's a confirmation bias that happens. It's almost like, have you ever been driving down the road and someone cuts you off and you're like, oh, what a jerk. You know what I mean? But when you're driving down the road and you're late for an appointment and you cut someone's off, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm just late for this appointment. Like, I'm not a jerk. I'm just late for this appointment. That confirmation bias, we have to give compassion to other people and understand that it's a psychological thing that happens. This confirmation bias. When you make a mistake, it's, there's all these explanations, but when someone else makes a mistake, where's the compassion? Where's the compassion for the other person? So we do need to have self-compassion, but we also need to have compassion for other people to know nobody's perfect. So yeah, that's what I think happens. And I think that a lot of it is in your mind. So funny. I talk to clients all the time, and they have this catastrophe of what's going to happen in the future. Oh, I made this mistake and I haven't been perfect and everybody hates me. And they go down this really negative scenario of the what ifs, they're going to be ashamed. And I just encourage them, do it anyway. Make yourself vulnerable enough to go out there and make amends. Make amends. And they find that it's never as bad as what they imagined in their head.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dr. Tachi, let me just put it up here. Well, Ulysses says it's that learned behavior that we saw our father turned out, and we do it too.
Yeah.
And Dr. Tachi says, yes, driveway time is awesome. So we are having a hopeful conversation, and one of the ways that this is a hopeful conversation is the questions that you're sharing with us, and Dr. Alicia's answering, and I think this is one of them here. How do we initiate the conversation with your father that is around but not present? What advice do you have to engage in those difficult conversations?
Conversation with your father who is around but not present?
Yeah.
I would just bring it up. Say, tell me what's going on. Here's what I need from you. What's getting in the way? It's a learning opportunity. See, this is conflict. I think conflict is so beautiful because when you want something from someone that they're not giving you, which is embedded in every single relationship, all relationships are going to let you down at some point. Everybody you have a relationship with, they're always going to disappoint you because that's just how the nature of relationships. But it is an opportunity to get to know that person better. There's a story behind why he's not as involved as probably he would like to be. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to approach it in a way of complete compassion and understanding and say, you know what, Dad, we need you in this way. Tell me a story about what things were like with you growing up. And I'm certain you can get a really nice story that'll help explain some of the things that he's gone through and the reason why he's come to the conclusion of not being involved, present, but not involved. It could be various different reasons, but it's important to have that conversation in a safe place. Don't just spring it on them. Just say, you know what? I want to talk to you about something that's very important to me that I've noticed, but let me know when it's a good time to talk. And I bet if you get him by himself and where he's comfortable, he'll have a discussion and he'll have a story to tell. Say, tell me a story about how you came to think that this was okay. And this is what your family needs from you. We need you. That's one thing about Black fathers. They need to feel needed and they are needed, but that needs to be articulated to them. Yeah.
Love it. So Ulysses, I'll give you a perfect example of how do you initiate the conversation, real life story from my journey many years ago. Well, when I was younger, I got the belt when I didn't behave. And I'll say it traumatized me with my father. And for many years, I wanted to tell him that it hurt me. And it took me a long time. So a number of years ago, and talking about doing in a safe embrace space. So my dad, for people who may not know, loves music. He's an avid vinyl collector to the point where he's a member of the Hall of Fame of the Vinyl Record Collectors of America. So, and he loves his music so much. At this period of time, he had speakers underneath his bed All right. So one day I said, you know what? I got to tell him because this is just burning me up. And I just said to myself, whatever the result of this conversation is, at least I got it out of me. So I went up to him. He was lying on his bed in his pajamas, listening to me. He said, Dad, I have something I got to tell you. When you gave me the belt, it hurt me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he was going to say, but what he said was this: you know what, son? I knew no other way. That was the way I was raised. Bam. So I would say, Ulysses, if and when you're ready to have that conversation, have it. Because again, at the best of times, the only person you can control is yourself. You don't know what your dad is going to respond, but at least you will get a breakthrough, at least with yourself. Best case scenario, both of you will have a breakthrough, but I don't want to have that feeling boiling up inside of you, because that could potentially not only eat you up, but it could also eat your communications and relations with others.
And you know what? It may be that you never get down to the bottom of it. Sometimes the forgiveness piece still has to come, because most of the time you have to forgive people. That doesn't mean reconcile with them, okay? You have to forgive people, and 9 times out of 10, they're not even asking you for forgiveness. Can you imagine how difficult that is?
Exactly.
To be in a place of forgiveness for somebody who did you wrong and didn't even ask you for forgiveness. And you know, and forgiving your parents for their shortcomings, right? It's not for them, it's for you.
Yep.
The forgiveness is for you, because forgiving yourself and forgiving them liberates yourself. It lets you be free of that situation or that experience. So yeah, it's a tough thing. It's not easy.
It is. And just to give the part 2 of the story, it took my dad almost dying of a heart attack for him and I to get really close.
Beautiful. Interesting.
Right.
Wow.
So he had suffered a heart attack the morning of his surgery. I wheeled him in to his operating room, and basically in a waiting room for 4 hours saying, I woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Wow.
And when that surgeon came into the room, and I knew within 5 seconds he was going to change my life forever. And he said he was going to be okay. So I rushed over to the surgeon. I got down on my knees and I hugged his leg for a minute. I said, hey, I had no shame. This gentleman gave, through higher power in his team, gave me a second chance. And I said, can I go in and see him? And he said, sure. There's my dad. And I said, Dad, how you doing? Oh, I can feel my toes now. I said, you jerk, you've been holding that in for so many years. So that was one of the catalysts that made me start wanting to help men, because I experienced it directly with my own father.
Yes. And the freeing that it had. Thank you for sharing that story, self-disclosing that. That's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful. I'm speechless almost. I mean, it's beautiful, the type of relationship that could be there, and that life is so short. You never know. I mean, I was just talking to you before. I have a neighbor who is in hospice, and she has young children, and I'm sitting here bawling all day long, because I'm just like, oh my God, this lady and her beautiful children. And I'm looking at her husband who's holding the whole family together, basically. Young, small children, with his wife who's not going to make it. And I mean, talk about a father, right? He has to be there, be strong. So let me tell you, it takes a village. We're all on the phone. I've been on instant messenger all day long. We're all coordinating, because we're going to embrace this family, to give this family everything that they need, because their mom is not going to be around.
And I think it's a good thing to say, to embrace other fathers.
Yes.
If you're a father, you can't do it alone. And as I say to people, you didn't come in the world by yourself, unless you were born on the Flintstones. Right. So it took 2 people. So it's so much easier if you're doing it alone. So let me catch up on some comments here.
Okay.
Ryan Knight says, glad to see Dr. Vibe getting his flowers. Hey, I received that. No problem. He also says, I like the approach that Dr. Watkins asking for help when needed instead of hoping the men around you can read your mind.
It would be so nice if my husband could read my mind. That would just but he can't.
Yeah. And Ray says, for men who didn't have relations with their fathers as children, how do we make that connection as adults? And should we compromise ourselves for the relationship's sake?
No, you should not. You have got to. This is why getting in contact with your feelings is so important, because feelings is a good signal to yourself that things are going right and things are not going right. So I don't think that you should ever compromise yourself at all in that sense, in terms to preserve a relationship. No, you can preserve the relationship and set up some boundaries. And feelings can tell you, if you're in tune with your feelings, which is all the therapy is, right? When you're in tune with your feelings, you feel confident in what's important for you and what is some things is acceptable and some things is not acceptable as adults. So you can definitely have a relationship, a grown relationship with another adult, and have boundaries around that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I with other men and other fathers, we have relationships that we have our vault conversations.
Yeah. And I mean, reading somebody's mind is just like, it reminds me of children. Like, think about an infant that's being born. You know, as a parent, as a mom, I got to try to read this child's mind. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm accurate and sometimes I'm not. How could you be accurate all the time? You know, but you have to, a good remedy for that is when you're interacting with your children, create a safe place for your children to be able to open up and talk about what's on their mind, how they feel about certain things, you know, having them be comfortable asking for what they need as children and responding to that. This is called a secure relationship between secure attachment with your primary caretaker, because going forward, when you enter into a relationship, you're comfortable talking about your thoughts, your feelings, and what you need from them. Because I think what happens is that parents shut their children down when they want to open up. One question that I ask a lot of clients in my office is, when you came home from school and you had a hard day at school, who did you talk to about difficult times that you had at school? When you were sad and lonely, who was the person that you spoke to about it? And it's so interesting, you know, there's some people to be like, oh, I talked to my mom or I talked to my dad. But so many times we get so many of us in our community say, I had nobody. I had nobody to talk to. I said, well, how did you get your needs met? What happened? They say, I just did it on my own. I didn't have anybody. I kept it up inside. And I know they're coming to me because they have relationship issues, because they were never felt worthy enough to be able to talk about their feelings when they were growing up. And then all of a sudden, as an adult, they get into an intimate relationship and you're like, wait, I'm not reading your mind. Tell me what's going on. They don't even feel comfortable telling you, because they were never raised in an environment where they felt worthy enough to be able to share their thoughts, their feelings, and their needs, which is critical to have healthy relationship when you're older. So I spend a lot of time going through that in my practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ulysses, and thanks, Ulysses, Ray, people giving the comments. Ulysses says, thank you for sharing, Dr. Vibe. The thing is, when it's hard for them to open up their challenges, it's getting them to talk. So this is just my suggestion. Go to your dad and say, Dad, I'm here for you. And when you're ready to talk, I'm ready to be here for you, because you can't force him to talk. You can't. So, but just giving him that comfort, saying, look, whenever I'd love to talk to you. And if and when you're ready, I'm here for you.
Okay, so here I am coming in. So many times this conversation didn't happen. It's not going to happen. So many times we're looking for our parents to be something that they're just not able to be. So there's other ways of having this sort of relationship without interacting with the actual parent. So one method that I use is that sometimes I'll have clients bring in a picture of their parent.
Wow. Okay.
A picture, and write a letter to your dad telling them everything that you want to say.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
And just talk to the
really
picture.
Good. That's really, you know what?
Because you may never be able to get it out to your actual father.
I'm going to add on to that. Robert Leung, who's a mentor of mine, and people may have heard me say this before, but I really encourage Black fathers, if you have other Black fathers who you have friends with, he believes in something called a living eulogy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I've mentioned for a while, but I mentioned periodically that I encourage Black fathers saying, look, do you have another Black fathers you're good friends with? Yes. Do this. Write what you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, hey, I just want to chat with you for about 5 minutes. Cool. Sit them down, pull out that piece of paper, read it to that other Black father, and give it to them.
Yeah. Okay, you could do that. But you know what? Even if you're not able to do that, you could still do the process of that, of writing the letter and reading the letter to just a picture. Believe it or not.
Wow. Okay.
That is actually very, very therapeutic, because realistically, our parents are who they are. You know, we can't change them. This is what they've grown up with, and maybe they don't have the level of insight and awareness that, you know, you would hope that they would have. And you have to grieve. That's a grieving process. The relationship that Ulysses wants to have with his father, he may never have it. And that's a grieving process, right? You have to kind of have an understanding of that. But that still doesn't stop him from processing all of these things. Remember, getting this stuff off your chest and the grieving process and all of that, it's not for the other person. It's for yourself and your own development. So you don't even need to talk to the actual person. Isn't that beautiful how the mind works? You don't even need to have a conversation with the actual person. You could just have an imagined conversation, and that could be just as satisfying as having an actual conversation with somebody. So, I mean, sometimes we idealize this relationship that we would love to have had, but sometimes we have to accept the fact that it may never be, unfortunately.
Dr. Taji says this conversation's invaluable.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer because you got a family waiting for you. But we'll do some closing comments about Hope for Black Men in a moment. But there is something you're doing in a few weeks.
Oh yes, I'm so excited.
So we got to hear about this. So tell us what's going down, because I saw you announce it.
Yeah, so I'm hosting a wellness retreat. It's going to take place on Saturday, August the 5th, and Sunday, August the 6th. And registration is open now. And it's so fascinating because, as we were talking about earlier today, all of us experience pain in our lives. You know, all of us have relationships with people that's less than ideal, right? And so I think having this retreat came up because I really want us to have a nice, small community of people who can come together and talk about all of the disappointments, all of the hurts in our lives, times where you trusted somebody and you shouldn't have trusted them and they let you down and you felt pain from that. And so I want to have a space where we could get together and start dealing through some of it so that we don't have to suffer. And when you're able to release some of that pain, you don't have to suffer anymore and you feel free. Your future is brighter. You can live a happier life. And sometimes when we suffer, it shows up as unproductive worry. And so I came up with this retreat because I wanted to have an opportunity for people to work through some of the things that's been paining them. And I will tell you, I started my business 3 years ago. So for 3 years, I've been working with individuals who've been dealing with a lot of issues. And I think that it would be really nice for all of us to come together as a community and start working through some of these painful past memories that all of us have, to work through them so that we can be all we can be. And I'm so excited about it. I also have a Reiki healer who's going to come in, and her name is Alicia, and she works on doing Reiki, where you can release some of the pain that's in your body and move that out of your body so you can be unstuck. So this is something that I think is I'm real excited about, and I'm real happy to host this wellness retreat.
Was that the lady that you showed when you did an Instagram live at a show that you were at?
Yes, I showed her.
Okay. Okay, because I saw that Instagram. I go, okay, is that the same lady?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the same lady, Lachelle. I'm going to invite her in, and she's going to be talking about how you can release the pain. So anybody that's having emotional pain, physical pain, past memories that kind of get you stuck, and you want to be free from all of that, this is what this retreat is for. Yeah.
Black, and you're making specifically for Black people, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we experience pain like no other, right? We've been let down and we've suffered enough. Is we've suffered enough. So yeah.
Excellent. I'm very excited about this event, and I'm speaking. You'll have some Black men show up for this.
I hope so. What I hope is that women will come and bring their spouses and bring their partners
Is that
along.
usually the way?
That's how it is. Yeah, that's usually the way. And it's funny because the men come, but at the end of the whole entire experience, they're the ones mostly involved. Like they really get into it, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to experience.
Well, that's fantastic. So as we wind down the conversation, some final thoughts that you have when it comes, to a hope for Black fathers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, no matter what is going on in your past, no matter how you grew up, no matter whether you had a strong father in your life or you didn't have a strong father in your life, you are not damaged. There's still something that you could consciously make the effort to provide for and to protect your family and your children, to make sure that you're the good father that you can be. So I really do think that we can't get caught up into being afraid, being afraid to that you are somehow can't be a good father because I didn't see a good father in my life. There's mentors, there's other people around that can supplement. So you're not damaged by your background. The second thing I would say is never give up on trying to build a healthy relationship. I hope everything turns out right for Ulysses, but they may not, but I think that you should never give up on it. And I think that it's a signal for you to maybe create boundaries around certain relationships. But I think that as a man, you can set the tone for how relationships go, and it can be respectful relationships. Another thing I would say is that it's okay to make mistakes sometimes. All of us make mistakes, but it doesn't mean that you are a mistake. So it's okay to say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. This relationship is important to me, and I'm never going to give up on that. So that's my hope for the Black families and Black fathers. Yeah.
Fantastic. As always, thank you for being you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, well,
and thanks for opening up, Dr. Vibe. This is the third date for real.
Jeez, you stop. You're gonna make me sweat here by saying that all the time. No, well, and I thank you and Dr. Boyce for all that you do, because both of you are great servants.
Yeah, interesting. You noticed that.
Oh yeah, you're great servants, and you impact so many people.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Both around the world, not just in the U.S., but also in Canada too. So I'm speaking that one day we will see you here in Toronto.
Yes, I would love to come to Toronto. Never been to Toronto, so I'd love to
Toronto.
come.
And I think we need to have a part 2 of this, because we just scratched the surface.
We have, because I'm looking at this other list. Oh yeah, there's more to talk about.
We didn't even get to that list. But you know what? We just let it happen organically in the conversation. Yeah. So I want to say, as always, to you, Dr. Boyce, both your families, and all the people that you serve, remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. The next conversation series will be about the Black family.
Yes, I think it's time to have that conversation.
We got to have that. We're gonna have to talk about the Black family, and then after that, we'll probably have Dr. Tachi and Dr. Alicia talk about Black women and in the education field. That and she's a tenured professor too, so you guys can just let loose.
Can talk. They can't take a tenure away from us.
Right? They can't rob you for anything. But again, thanks for everything that you do. We're speaking that this virtual event will be a huge success.
Yes, I'm hoping. And bravo to you with your mentorship. How great to have Sarat come back and give such a great testimony to you. You're beautiful, Dr.
Well,
Vibe.
I'm very humbled, and I just realized that many years. Oh, we got some things. The Ulysses says, "Let's change the Sigma narrative, and
Yes.
let's do better than what we experienced."
Yes.
Dr. Tachi, clap emojis. Ulysses is thank you, Dr. Alicia, a cup and a clap. And then
Yes.
Sharon Knight says, thanks, doctor. So Sharon, you've been here at the beginning. What? Just like Dr. Tachi, you've been holding on from the beginning. Wonderful. I guess actually before you leave, I'm gonna share something with everybody that a good friend of Dr. Boyce is Dr. George Fraser.
Yes.
Said, so I'm going to share with everybody, but Dr. Chai says, Dr. Alicia, thank you. Watkins, great conversation. Good night, all. Ulysses goes, this was great. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Chai, for being here. But I'm going to share something that George Fraser, who I have a huge amount of respect for, said. So this is especially for the fathers. This is something that George Fraser said recently. Ambition is the road to success, but persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. You have to persist. A river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence. We as a people are here in spite of all the stuff we've been through because we've persisted. Focus on, for all of us, we should take a look at obstacles are opportunities. They are important. The obstacle is the way.
Yes.
Where there is no obstacle, there is no way.
That's right. When you see an obstacle, you almost need to cheer because you're like, you know what? This obstacle is here for a reason, and there's something better on the other side of that obstacle. I'm going to be better. I'm reading a book called The Obstacle is the Way. There's a book about it. Yes, I'm reading. I'm almost done with it.
Dr. Tachi, I'm going to reach out to you offline. I'd love you to provide some recommended books.
Yes.
For our people.
Yes.
Like Oprah got her list. Well, we want a Dr. Alicia list.
Yeah, I got them too because I read books. I'm reading all the time. Absolutely. Yes.
So if you could, I'd love to just give some recommended books. And actually, there's another segment there. Talk about some of the books that have influenced you and basically have there's another idea for you, a virtual book club.
I would love, Boyce has one every Wednesday.
Yes.
And he's like, Alicia, you should start one. I'm like, oh my God.
No,
I don't know.
I know, but that'd be a good idea. I'd help out on that.
Would you do it? But okay, if you help, I'll do it if you help.
Okay, we'll talk about it offline because so I think because reading is so important. And I'll leave you with this for you and Dr. Boyce. Success has 3 S's in it, and both of you exemplify this: service, sacrifice, and selflessness.
Oh my gosh. I really appreciate that. And nobody's more selfless than Boyce. I'm telling you. I mean, even in his career and how he gives to the Black community, he does these live events. And I'm just like, we don't make any money on the live events. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even want me to talk about that. But it's just beautiful. He's very, very selfless. Boyce is.
Well,
for sure.
You may lose money, but the wealth that you are creating.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He does not care about it. Believe it or not, here's a financial guy who doesn't even care about losing money in certain things.
I know.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's inspiring. I'll tell you that much.
Well, what he has built, the way he has built it, is my inspiration.
Yeah, it's amazing because like I'm his wife and I'm just like, pick your socks up, put the dishes in the thing. But at the same time, I'm like his biggest fan. I mean, like I really admire him and I'm like, whoa, so it's just weird. It's a weird dynamic because he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
He's ridiculously brilliant. Both of you are. Both of you are.
I appreciate that.
I'm saying this as a compliment. You're a dangerous Black couple.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that is for sure a compliment. For sure it's a compliment. But
You're a
I admire him. I really admire him. I mean, all the work that he does and all the things that he does, I absolutely admire him. I won't let nobody treat him bad either. Like, stand up for him. I'm like, leave him alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to let you go. All right.
All right.
Be well and keep the faith. Take care. All right, family. Epic conversation. Thank you. And there's Dr. Alicia's best way to get a hold of her. There's so many ways, so I kept it short this time. But if you go to the original post for this conversation, pardon me, there's so many different websites because her and Dr. Boyce do so many incredible things. But the main way, if you want to keep in touch with her, is that Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram, and then the Wellness Retreat is there. All right, that is it, family. A longer conversation, but a worthwhile conversation. So want to leave you with a few things. If you're up to it, please like the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Thank you for all the people that are subscribing. It's fantastic. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you want to get a hold of me, the drvibeshow.com website, email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. The Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Twitter at drvibeshow, and Instagram at the drvibeshow. That's it, family. We're closing it down. So before we leave, this is what I always leave with. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to be stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect, and remember to give yourselves grace. And also, if you're watching this before Father's Day, a happy Father's Day to everybody. And even those gentlemen who are not fathers, you are a father to someone in the world. You may not realize it. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. Walk good. Take care, everybody, and thanks for another epic conversation. Bye-bye. Yeah.